It was just another Tuesday afternoon in my dorm room. The familiar hum of the air conditioner, the distant chatter of students in the hallway, and the soft glow of my desk lamp as I tried to make sense of my economics textbook. I'm Alex, by the way, a sophomore at Westlake University, majoring in business with a minor in creative writing. An odd combination, I know. But I've always had this dream of writing the next great American novel while having a stable career to fall back on. My parents are practical people, and their practicality has somehow seeped into my bones. My roommate, Jamie, and I have been sharing this cramped space since the beginning of the semester, about 3 months now. We weren't exactly friends, but we weren't strangers either. We existed in that peculiar limbo of roommateship where you know each other's schedules and quirks but don't really hang out outside the four walls you share. Jamie was a computer science major, brilliant with code but sometimes oblivious to the basic maintenance of our shared living space. The number of times I've had to remind him to take out the trash or clean his side of the room was becoming a running joke between us. Jamie was tall, with perpetually tousled dark hair that somehow always looked intentional rather than messy. He had these intense blue eyes that seemed to look right through you when he was focused, which was most of the time when he was coding. He was also part of the university's swimming team, which explained his broad shoulders and the fact that he was in remarkably good shape for someone who could spend 12 hours straight in front of a computer screen. I was deep into my textbook, trying to understand the concept of elastic demand, when the door burst open and Jamie rushed in, his face flushed from what I assumed was a sprint across campus. His backpack was slung over one shoulder, threatening to slip off, and his hair was even more disheveled than usual. "Alex, thank God you're here," he panted, dropping his backpack on his bed. My phone died right in the middle of a call with my group project team, and I was supposed to send them the code I've been working on all night. "Do you have your charger?" "Mine's somewhere in my gym bag, and I can't find it." I looked up from my textbook, secretly grateful for the interruption. "Yeah, sure," I said, reaching for the charger plugged into the wall next to my desk. "Here you go." Jamie's face lit up with relief. "You're a lifesaver," he said, taking the charger from my hand. Our fingers brushed briefly, and I felt a small jolt of something. I brushed it off as static electricity, a common occurrence in our dry dorm room. Jamie plugged in his phone and sat on the edge of my bed, waiting for it to power up. "Mind if I wait here until it has enough juice to send the files?" he asked, already making himself comfortable. "Go ahead," I replied, turning back to my textbook, though I found it harder to concentrate now with Jamie sitting so close. I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and subtle that I'd noticed before but never really paid attention to. "What are you studying?" Jamie asked, peering over at my textbook. "Economics," I sighed. "Trying to understand elastic demand, but it's like reading a foreign language sometimes." Jamie chuckled. "I know that feeling. That's me in my literature elective. The professor keeps talking about symbolism and metaphors, and I'm just there thinking, can a blue curtain just be a blue curtain?" I laughed, surprised by how easy it was to talk to Jamie when we actually tried. Usually, our conversations were limited to, "Did you pay the internet bill?" or "Is it your turn to clean the bathroom?" As Jamie's phone slowly charged, our conversation flowed from classes to professors to our hometowns. I learned that Jamie was from Seattle, that he had a younger sister who was still in high school, and that he'd been coding since he was 12. He told me about his dream of creating a startup that developed accessible technology for people with disabilities, inspired by his cousin who had cerebral palsy. "That's really admirable," I said, genuinely impressed. "Most CS majors I know just want to work for Google or create the next big social media app." Jamie shrugged, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. "It's not that noble. I just think technology should help everyone, not just those who can afford the latest gadgets." There was something about the way he said it, with such sincerity and passion, that made me see Jamie in a new light. He wasn't just the messy roommate who left his wet towels on the bathroom floor or forgot to buy toilet paper. He was someone with dreams and aspirations, someone who cared about making a difference. As we talked, I noticed how Jamie's eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, how he used his hands to emphasize his points when he was excited about something, and how he had this habit of running his fingers through his hair when he was thinking. These were all things I'd seen before but had never really observed. The conversation shifted to music, and we discovered we both had an unexpected love for 80s rock bands. "No way," Jamie exclaimed when I mentioned my love for Queen. "I thought I was the only one in our generation who appreciated Freddie Mercury's genius." "Are you kidding? Bohemian Rhapsody is a masterpiece," I replied, reaching for my laptop. "Here, let me show you this live performance I found on YouTube." The energy is incredible. Jamie moved closer to see the screen, our shoulders touching as we huddled over the laptop. I was acutely aware of his presence, the warmth radiating from his body, the subtle scent of his cologne mixing with the clean smell of his shampoo. It was distracting in a way I wasn't prepared for. As the video played, I found myself stealing glances at Jamie, noticing how the light from the screen illuminated his profile, how his lips moved slightly as he silently sang along to the lyrics. There was something intimate about sharing this moment, this mutual appreciation for music that meant something to both of us. When the video ended, Jamie turned to me, his face closer than I expected. "That was amazing," he said softly, his eyes meeting mine. "Thanks for showing me." I swallowed, suddenly aware of the tension in the air. "No problem," I managed to say, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Jamie didn't move away immediately, and for a moment, I thought. Well, I wasn't sure what I thought. But then his phone buzzed, breaking the spell. "Oh, looks like it's charged enough," Jamie said, reaching for his phone. "I should send those files to my team before they think I've abandoned them." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment as Jamie moved back to his side of the room. While he typed away on his phone, I tried to refocus on my textbook, but the words swam before my eyes, my mind replaying the moment we just shared. After sending his files, Jamie surprised me by returning to sit on the edge of my bed. "So what else are you into besides 80s rock and economics?" he asked, as if our conversation was too interesting to end. And just like that, we were back in our bubble, talking about everything and nothing. Jamie told me about his love for science fiction novels, particularly those that explored the ethical implications of advanced technology. I shared my passion for poetry, something I'd never really discussed with anyone at college before. "Read me one of your poems," Jamie said, his eyes lighting up with genuine interest. I hesitated. My poems were personal, fragments of my thoughts and feelings that I'd never shared with anyone. "They're not very good," I demurred. "I don't believe that for a second," Jamie insisted. "Come on, just one. I promise I won't laugh." There was something about the earnestness in his expression that made it hard to refuse. I reached for my notebook, flipping to a poem I'd written a few weeks ago about the changing seasons and the passage of time. As I read, my voice trembled slightly, but Jamie listened with rapt attention, his eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, there was a moment of silence, and I braced myself for a polite but dismissive response. "That was beautiful," Jamie said quietly. "You have a way with words that makes ordinary things seem extraordinary." The sincerity in his voice made my chest tighten with emotion. No one had ever responded to my poetry like that before. "Thanks," I said, closing my notebook. "That means a lot." Our eyes met, and there was a charged moment of connection that made my heart race. Jamie's gaze dropped to my lips for a split second before he looked away, clearing his throat. "I should probably let you get back to your studying," he said, though he made no move to leave. "I don't mind the company," I admitted. "Economics can wait." Jamie smiled, and the atmosphere shifted again, becoming more relaxed yet somehow more intimate. We continued talking, our conversation flowing effortlessly from topic to topic. I learned about Jamie's childhood in Seattle, how he used to build elaborate structures with Legos, foreshadowing his future in creating and building with code. He told me about his first computer, a hand-me-down from his uncle that he took apart and reassembled just to understand how it worked. In turn, I shared stories about growing up in a small town in Michigan, where everyone knew everyone else's business, about my high school English teacher who encouraged my writing, and about my dream of someday publishing a novel. As we talked, I noticed how Jamie's body language had changed. He was more relaxed, more open, leaning slightly toward me as if drawn by an invisible force. I found myself mirroring his posture, our knees occasionally brushing as we sat facing each other on my bed. The sky outside our window had darkened, the afternoon giving way to evening without either of us noticing. The only light in the room came from my desk lamp, casting a warm glow that made everything feel more intimate. "I'm really glad your phone died," I said without thinking, then immediately felt my face heat up. "I mean, not for your sake, obviously, but I've enjoyed talking to you like this." Jamie's smile was soft, almost tender. "Me too. It's funny, isn't it? We've been living together for months, but I feel like I'm just now getting to know you." There was a vulnerability in his admission that resonated with me. "I know what you mean. It's easy to get caught up in our routines and forget to actually connect with the people around us." Jamie nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've always been like that, so focused on my goals that I sometimes miss what's right in front of me." The way he looked at me as he said those words made my heart skip a beat. Was he talking about me? Was I reading too much into this? Before I could overthink it, Jamie reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. The touch was gentle, questioning, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, my eyes meeting his. The air between us seemed to crackle with electricity, a tension that had been building all afternoon finally reaching its breaking point. "Alex," Jamie said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've wanted to do this for a while now." And then he was leaning in, and I was meeting him halfway, and our lips were touching in a kiss that was tentative at first, a question being asked and answered. His lips were soft against mine, and I felt his hand cup my cheek, drawing me closer. When we pulled apart, both of us were breathless, looking at each other with a mixture of surprise and wonder. "Wow," Jamie said, a smile spreading across his face. "That was unexpected." I supplied, my own smile mirroring his. "In the best possible way," he finished, his thumb tracing circles on my cheek. I leaned in and kissed him again, more confidently this time, my hands finding their way to his shoulders, feeling the solid warmth of him beneath my palms. Jamie responded eagerly, his arms wrapping around my waist, pulling me closer until I was practically in his lap. When we separated this time, we were both laughing softly, the joy of discovery bubbling up between us. "I never thought," Jamie began, shaking his head in disbelief. I hoped, but I wasn't sure if I was interested in guys?" I finished for him. "I am. Well, some guys. You specifically." Jamie's smile was radiant. "Good to know. Because I'm very interested in you, specifically." We talked for hours after that, our conversation now interspersed with kisses and tender touches, learning each other in this new, exciting way. Jamie told me how he'd been attracted to me since the beginning of the semester, but had been too afraid to say anything, worried about making things awkward if I didn't feel the same way. "I used to find excuses to be in the room when you were here," he admitted, his fingers intertwined with mine. "I'd pretend I needed to study, but really, I just wanted to be around you. And here I thought you were just being a responsible student," I teased, bringing our joined hands to my lips. As the night deepened, our conversation turned to practical matters. What did this mean for us? How would we navigate being roommates and whatever we were becoming? "I don't want to rush into labeling this," Jamie said, his expression serious. "But I know I want to explore it, to see where it goes." I nodded, appreciating his honesty. "Me too. We can take it slow, figure it out as we go." "Though not too slow," Jamie added with a mischievous grin, leaning in for another kiss that left me dizzy with want. We were both aware of the potential complications. What would our other friends in the dorm think? How would we handle the inevitable gossip? But in that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, those concerns seemed distant and manageable. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of discovery. We went on proper dates, dinner at a small Italian restaurant off campus, a movie night where we paid more attention to each other than the screen, studying together in the library where our feet would tangle under the table. A secret communication that made us both smile. Our roommate dynamic shifted, too. The small irritations that had once bothered me, Jamie's wet towels, his late-night coding sessions, now seemed endearing rather than annoying. We learned to navigate our shared space in a new way, finding a balance between privacy and intimacy. Our friends noticed the change in our relationship, of course. Some were surprised, others claimed they'd seen it coming all along. There were a few awkward moments, a few whispers in the hallways, but overall, the response was positive. In our diverse university community, we were just another couple finding our way together. There were challenges, too. Jamie's intense focus on his project sometimes meant he would get lost in his work, forgetting our plans. My tendency to overthink and worry about the future occasionally created tension between us. But we learned to communicate, to understand each other's needs and boundaries. One evening, about a month after that fateful day when Jamie's phone died, we were lying on my bed, my head on his chest as he read aloud from a science fiction novel he loved. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat under my ear, the soothing cadence of his voice, the warm security of his arm around me, it all felt so right, so perfectly aligned. "I never expected this," I said during a pause in his reading. "When the semester started, I thought you were just going to be the guy I shared a room with. Now I'm what?" Jamie prompted when I trailed off, his fingers gently combing through my hair. I looked up at him, at the face that had become so dear to me in such a short time. "Now you're someone I can't imagine not having in my life." Jamie's expression softened, his eyes filled with an emotion that made my heart swell. "I feel the same way," he said, bending down to place a gentle kiss on my forehead. And to think, all it took was a dead phone battery and a borrowed charger. I laughed, snuggling closer to him. The universe works in mysterious ways. Or maybe some things are just meant to be, Jamie suggested, his arms tightening around me. Either way, I'm grateful for whatever cosmic force brought us together. As we lay there, wrapped in each other's warmth, I thought about the unexpected journey that had led us here. From strangers assigned to the same dorm room to roommates coexisting in parallel lives to whatever we were now, partners, boyfriends, two people falling in love. It reminded me of something my grandmother used to say, that the best things in life are often the ones we don't see coming. She was talking about her own love story with my grandfather, how they met by chance at a bus stop during a rainstorm, sharing an umbrella and ending up sharing 60 years of their lives. I didn't know if Jamie and I would have 60 years together. We were young, still figuring out who we were and what we wanted from life. But in that moment, with his heartbeat steady under my ear and his voice soft in the quiet of our room, I knew that whatever happened, this connection between us was real and worth exploring. Sometimes the most profound changes come from the smallest moments, a dead phone, a borrowed charger, a conversation that stretches into evening. Sometimes the person you're looking for has been right in front of you all along, just waiting for the right moment to be seen. And sometimes, just sometimes, the charge between two people is so strong that once it starts flowing, there's no stopping it. It transforms everything it touches, illuminating corners of your life you never knew existed, creating a circuit of connection that feels like coming home. As Jamie continued reading, his voice a gentle rumble beneath my ear, I closed my eyes and smiled, grateful for dead batteries and borrowed chargers, for 80s rock bands and shared poetry, for all the small moments that had led us here, to this place of unexpected joy and connection. In the soft glow of our dorm room, with the world outside continuing its chaotic dance, we had found something precious and rare, a charge between us that showed no signs of fading anytime soon. Total _char_count, 18,453.